the western coast of Asia Minor in Turkey. Ephesus is an ancient city that was inhabited and controlled by Greeks, Romans, and early Christians for 2,000 years. Most people know Ephesus from its mention in the Bible, especially in St. Paul's letter to the Ephesians, but Ephesus was famous well before that. Because of its wealth and strategic position in the Aegean Sea, it was a coveted city by the major powers of the Mediterranean. The Baths of Varius is located at the main entrance of Ephesus, so that when people arrived, they could freshen up and rest before entering the city. The baths were a typical Roman bath with hot and cold rooms. This was one of 4 baths that existed in Ephesus. According to legend, Ephesus was founded by Amazons, a famed tribe of woman warriors. Archaeological evidence suggests that Bronze Age people lived in this area. The migration from Greece started in 1200 BC and Ephesus eventually became a Greek city. Around the 7th century BC, Ephesus started to emerge as a prominent city under the rule of the Lydian kings. It became prosperous, and a great center of learning where women enjoyed equal rights as men. Persians eventually invaded Ephesus, defeated the Lydians and took control of the city until Alexander the Great retook the city from the Persians, in 335 BC. As Greek influence faded, Romans took control of the city and it became an important center of trade and commerce, while maintaining its high standards in learning and intellectual pursuits. The Celsus Library of Ephesus is a testament to its commitment to learning during those times. In a typical Greek city-state, a bouleuterion was a place where members of the Senate got together to discuss the matters of the state. Built in the shape of a theater, the bouleuterion was also used as a concert hall where music performances and contests were held. Is an assembly of buildings and structures that were used to house the executive branch of the Greek government. It is equivalent to a current-day city hall. The officials who administered the city would have worked and met in these buildings. These types of buildings were typically erected near the agora. Agora in Greek means meeting place, and it is similar to a town square or plaza in modern times. The Prytaneon contained a hearth to hold the perpetual fire, which is a symbol of the goddess Hestia. Rows of shops, inns, religious and civic buildings, the Curides Street, which is 2,010 meters long, was Ephesus' main boulevard. Both sides of the street had sidewalks with mosaic pavement. Horses, chariots, and carts used the street, and just like in modern times, a sewer channel ran under the street. Memmius Monument is situated on the north side of the Domitian Square. It was constructed during the reign of Augustus in the 1st century AD by Memmius, the grandson of dictator Sulla. One can see the figures of his father and grandfather on the blocks today. The structure has 4 facades. In the 4th century AD, a square fountain was built on the northwest facade. As Christianity started spreading, early Christians visited Ephesus in the 1st century in an effort to convert the inhabitants. St. Paul is said to have preached in the amphitheater. St. John and the Virgin Mary are believed to have lived in the city and were buried there. The rise of Christianity sealed the fate of the city. As Christianity took root in the Roman Empire, worshipping of pagan gods was forbidden, resulting in the closure of temples, which led to their eventual destruction. Women, who enjoyed equal rights and were prominent citizens until then, were relegated to insignificant roles. Ephesus never regained its former prominence or glory. The final blow to Ephesus came when the harbor was slowly pushed a few miles away from the city due to the depositing of silt from the river. Eventually, Ephesus lost access to the Aegean Sea and ceased being a port, resulting in a huge decrease in population. In the 14th century, the Ottoman Empire took control of Ephesus. The city was completely abandoned in the 15th century.
Ladies and gentlemen, have you ever played the game tic-tac-toe? Yeah. But in Australian it's
Built around 104 CE, the Fountain of Trajan is one of the finest monuments in Ephesus. It was constructed in honor of Roman Emperor Trajan. The original pool of the fountain was 20 by 10 meters, surrounded by columns and statues. These statues were of Dionysus, a satyr, Aphrodite, and the family of the emperor. The statues are on display in the Ephesus Museum. This fountain is considered to be one of the 3 most magnificent fountains of Ephesus. The fountain had 2 ornamental pools, one in the front and one at the rear. The upper-level pool was surrounded with Corinthian-style columns. Water flowed from a pillar on which rested a colossal statue of Emperor Trajan. This pillar was at the very center of the largest ornamental pool. An inscription at the base stated that the world rested at the emperor's feet. This was symbolized by a round stone placed under the foot of the emperor's statue. Today only the pedestal and one of the feet belonging to this statue of Trajan have survived.
Pero no lo ubico con qué dirección estaba entonces, o no, que los medios me lo han olvidado.
Temple of Hadrian in Ephesus was built to honor the Roman Emperor Hadrian, who visited the city in 128 AD. The temple is an impressive example of Roman architecture and engineering, and it is one of the best preserved ruins in Ephesus. The keystone relief decorated with floral patterns in the middle of the curved arch is Tyche, the goddess of good fortune. When we enter the interior of the temple, it is thought that the female figure in the semicircular relief on the door may possibly be Medusa. The terrace houses, also called the houses of the rich, consists of luxurious residential villas, located on the northern slope of Bulbuldaji Hill, along Eurydice Street, and opposite the Temple of Hadrian. To date, 2 housing complexes, eastern and western, have been excavated. The excavation work of the terrace houses started in 1960. The restoration of the houses is an ongoing process, and every year there is something new to admire there. The terrace houses were owned by the richest Ephesians. These were high-ranking officers, governors and rich tradesmen. The size of the homes range from 1,000 square feet to the largest one, which was 6,000 square feet. They date back to the 1st century AD and were inhabited until 3rd century AD. The houses were destroyed and abandoned by a major earthquake and tsunami in 262 AD. Many of them were 2-storied houses and had peristyles. Peristyle meaning that each home had a courtyard surrounded by rooms without windows. Above the courtyard there was an opening for fresh air, and when it rained, rainwater was collected either in a pool or a well. Floors of the homes were decorated with marble and mosaics. The walls with stucco mythological scenes. They were luxuriously furnished private houses with fountains, private baths and central heating. Between the street and houses was a portico with a mosaic floor, behind which were shops. Their homes were single-family homes. Homes were made, quite often, of brick with red tile roofs, with rooms arranged around a central courtyard. The windows and balconies faced the courtyard, not the street, to keep homes safe from burglars. There was very little furniture, and no carpeting. Wealthy Romans might have a house with a front door, bedrooms, an office, a kitchen, a dining room, a garden, a temple, an atrium, a toilet, and a private bath.
That's why when servants were serving food, they were not accepted to step in. Just in case of witnessing the conversation, ladies and gentlemen, the food was sent through the holes in the ceiling. So the two shapes, one is a round, one is a square, are said to have been the shapes of the trays. So food would come through the ceiling right to the table, so the waiters would not walk into to serve the food. Look at those beautiful tiles, beautiful mosaics on the ground.
Okay.
Who do you think prepared the shopping list? The servants? No. Why? Because the servants wouldn't know how to read and write. Only the masters. A very small percent was located in the upper portion too. That the majority was not accepted to walk in. You know what it means? Healthcare was not a public service. Just like today. If you had the money, you would get it. And these were the companies that financed the construction of ceiling, which cost was 11 million downstairs and larger rooms surrounding them.
Wall paintings or frescoes in private homes in Ephesus represent the largest collection of wall paintings of the Roman imperial period in Asia Minor. Paintings were commissioned by the owners to reflect their tastes and importance in the community.
These were their and please pay attention to the size of the quarter. After the disease, malaria, when the whole
The floors were decorated with mosaics, generally of a black and white and geometric design in keeping with the traditional mosaic style of the Roman era.
I will be waiting here for everyone to join us because I would love to watch this amazing scenery. Dobra, jesteśmy, to słuchajcie, idziemy.
Did you say the upper ones was the most wealthy?
Yeah, bad. She said something about lunch and I was like, oh, yeah. That's crazy.
That's number 29. Okay. You are mine. Take pictures. Then we are meeting under those arches downstairs. Okay? Enjoy your free time. I'll be back within a minute. We'll be down there under the arches with a tent.
The Library of Celsus is considered an architectural marvel, and is one of the only remaining examples of great libraries of the ancient world located in the Roman Empire. It was the third largest library in the Greco-Roman world behind only those of Alexandria and Pergamum, and is believed to have held around 12,000 scrolls. Gaius Julius Celsus Ptolemaios, who had been governor of the province of Asia in 115 AD, is buried in a crypt beneath the library in a decorated marble sarcophagus. The Gate of Masius with 3 passageways at the right of the Celsus Library was built in 40 AD by the slaves Masius and Mithridates for their emperor, Augustus, who gave them their freedom.
And back to our Roman reporter.
Okay. So we're in Ephesus, and fantastic, well preserved. I think they've only excavated 18% of this complex, and it just goes on and on and on. And I mean, the mosaics, the statues, the columns, the marble, the all the pavers, all the different kinds of rocks that were used. It's absolutely mind-blowing. So officially, mind has been blown. So I bid you adieu, and soon we're going to be having lunch. Thank you.
I think this is possible for you, but I want you to know that this is not the worst here. This is, we even consider cool, because in July and August it goes over 100 for weeks. Hello, here we are. 100. Stop and turn back, turn around.
The Marble Road was one of the main streets running through Ephesus. It links Curites Street with the Arcadian Way, passing the Library of Celsus and the commercial agora. The Marble Road was built in the 1st century and was reconstructed in the 5th century. It was originally part of the Sacred Way leading to the Temple of Artemis. The road was very busy and saw lots of traffic, including chariots. Busts and statues of important people used to line the road along with imperial decrees.
For 3 years. This is why we made the tents.
The Great Theatre of Ephesus was one of the largest structures in Ephesus. The original theatre was constructed by the Greeks in the 3rd century AD. The Romans later expanded the remodeled the structure to meet their amphitheatre style of construction. The structure remaining today has the capacity to seat 25,000 persons. In ancient times, it was used for political, religious and sometimes sporting events, such as gladiator fights. St. Paul is believed to have preached in this theatre. According to historical accounts and biblical references, the Apostle Paul did visit the Great Theatre in Ephesus. The Book of Acts in the New Testament mentions that Paul spent a significant amount of time in Ephesus during his missionary journeys. Acts 19 verses 29 to 31 describes how a riot erupted in Ephesus due to the influence of Paul's teachings on the worship of Artemis. The riot took place in the theater, indicating that Paul was present in that location. While the specific activities or speeches of Paul in the Great Theater are not detailed in the biblical account, it is evident that his presence in Ephesus and the impact of his teachings played a role in the events that unfolded there. The Arcadian Way, also known as the Harbor Street, because it leads to the Ephesus harbor, is located in front of the Great Theater. The street was built sometime in the 1st century BC and rebuilt in 267 BC after an earthquake destroyed it. The street is about 2,000 feet long and 40 feet wide. Visitors who arrived by the harbor entered Ephesus through this street. It is believed that Cleopatra and Mark Antony would have walked down this street as they arrived in Ephesus to celebrate their honeymoon.